Hey, Tonya.
Hi there, Steve.
Oh, man. Well, I have been looking forward to this discussion for quite some time. And I'll tell everybody in the audience why is that I've been at this for a long time in terms of sharing information and resources for older adults, their families, and providers. And what I've been to are countless, and I've helped orchestrate countless dozens, if not hundreds, of discussions where we put an expert on the podium and that expert lectures to a bunch of other experts. And one of my goals for 2023 is to put the spotlight more on real people that have made real choices, found real solutions, and give them the opportunity to share their journey, because I know that by sharing these journeys, we can help everyone. And so, Tonya, today we're going to be learning a little bit about your journey, which I know a little bit about, but I intentionally didn't want to know too much about it because I want to be in the same boat as everybody in the audience to hear your story. So I really thank you for joining us and agreeing to be transparent and share all the decisions that you had to make.
It's my pleasure. If I can help somebody, I'm a counselor by profession, and helping people has been something I've always done. And there's nothing like having a real life person telling their story.
Exactly. So just for our audience members, the best thing about these discussions is that you can share your thoughts, you can ask questions, you can share resources. And so so if you can use chat, which is a great way to share your ideas with the other members in the audience. But then if you have questions specifically for any of us on stage, Tonya, myself, later this afternoon, we're going to get to chat with Arvet Reed. But I also want to let folks know Tonya's got a busy day, so she's only with us for a total of 40 more minutes. And then, but we'll continue the discussion after that. So, Tonya, before we dive into the journey that you've gone on, tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up, and your family, career, and all of that info?
Thank you. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, and went to school at Indiana University, where I met my husband. He was a blind date, and I did not like him at first. And hope springs eternal, and we have had a celebration of 55 years of marriage. Unfortunately, he died 4 years ago. Let's see what else. My profession was a career counselor. I worked at George Mason University. I set up the first career counseling center at the State Department. I had my own practice. I did outplacement counseling. And when Steve went into the weeds of Alzheimer's, he needed me by his side. So I had to stop everything.
Okay, well, I know we're gonna dive into that, but what was Steve's profession?
Oh, Steve was a brilliant tax attorney.
Great. And then
I recently wrote a memoir about what I'm grateful for. And in that, I shared that Steve in college would go to school half a semester, and then the other half he would go off working for a national accounting firm with an internship. So he was brilliant, and he knew he always wanted to be a tax attorney.
That's great. Now, did the two of you have any children?
We have 2 children.
And where do they live?
Our son is a tenured professor at Lehigh University, so he lives close to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he's coming in tomorrow for a weekend visit. And he has one daughter who's 22, who has a boyfriend who's Spanish, and they're out in Vancouver. And our daughter Samantha is 53, and she lives 20 minutes from me. And I have two wonderful grandchildren from her. And Max, they're going to be 16. I can't believe it.
Wow, this is great. Okay, so oh, and then prior to we're going to talk about where you live now. We'll go down that path, but prior to the move that we're going to talk about, where did you and Steve live? What neighborhood or community?
We moved to a Pulte development, and we lived in Alexandria in a very, very large house. And then we went into a 3-bedroom condo. And after I met Tom West, he said, you have to sell the condo and rent an apartment, and it will free up a lot of money for you.
Okay.
And that's what we did.
Okay. This is great. Okay. So we've set the table here. So now let's talk about this journey, and you sort of brought it up a little bit. So you've got this family, you and Steve are living in a large house in Alexandria, Virginia. And you sort of mentioned that you decided to downsize and move to a condo. Tell me a little bit about that. And you have alluded to the fact that Steve developed dementia, I believe. Was
right.
That move before or after he had that diagnosis?
We moved before he had that diagnosis.
Okay, so you all just wanted to downsize.
Well, he was a pack rat, and I figured the only way I could clean out his den was to move, so we did.
Okay, great. And then so you made that move, and now you brought up a name I'm familiar with, Tom West, who is the founder of the Lifecare Affordability Plan, which we're going to talk about. So had you had a relationship with Tom West before you made that move, or did you learn about the Lifecare Affordability Plan after that move?
I learned about it after that move. It was a Fairfax County Senior Center that recommended that I look at Insight Memory Care Center for people who have dementia.
Oh,
and
okay.
They're in Fairfax, and they provide support groups, education, all kinds of workshops for people who work with people with dementia, as well as training for them, and incredible support for family members. And all the workshops are free. And Tom came to one of those workshops, and I listened to what he said. And then I went to Fairfax County Public TV, and I watched him on that. And I said to my girlfriend, please come with me to visit with him, because I am a big picture person. I'm terrible with details. And this is a decision that I'm going to have to make, and I want your input.
Okay, so it sounds like that you moved to the condo. Steve was a pack rat. So you moved to the condo, you dealt with all that downsizing to make that move. And then at the condo is where he began to develop dementia. Is that?
I think they hide it. People with dementia hide it. And unfortunately, the people in the office did not feel it was proper for them to tell me, which was a huge, huge mistake. He was losing clients. He couldn't focus. And on top of that, he was diabetic. And so his wonderful secretary would know when he came in, oh, he needs some orange juice right away. So the office, he was still working. They enabled the and you were not as aware of some of the issues that were happening. Right. And then we were going to go on a cruise, and we closed up the office, and he retired.
Okay.
And we were still in that apartment, right,
or the condo.
in the condo,
And then,
right.
so you started seeing these warning signs, learned about Insight Memory Care, which is an amazing resource, and I'll make sure that we drop in their website to the into chat, and learned about the Lifecare Affordability Plan, which for those who we'll get into the details of that, because our vet Reed is going to join us at the end of the discussion. But what I will say, because I know Tom and our vet and the whole team, they have created this innovative planning tool to help folks understand the cost of all of these confusing different services and choices that we have in senior living. So tell us a little bit about when you connected with that team and got the Lifecare Affordability Plan. What did that help you do at this process when you were at home with Insight Memory Care?
Well, I met with Tom, and we talked about looking at what we had in our financial portfolio. And he explained how they invest and manage the portfolio. And then I called Steve's broker, and this broker had been working with Steve for years, and I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know anything about it, about how they chose their stocks, whatever. But this broker told me he was a certified person to work with people like me with life decisions, and he wanted to churn my account. Well, I'm no dummy. Every time he would buy something new and sell something new, he'd get a piece of the action. So I said, goodbye. And I went to Tom and I said, I want you to, let's talk about what we can do together.
So you clearly developed some trust, which is really a key ingredient with all the providers that we choose. You got to be comfortable, but I think the skill set that Lifecare Affordability Plan, they clearly know the cost and the providers and are able to give you a better picture of the expenses coming down the road. And
absolutely, because if I were to put Steve into a facility, it was going to cost me over $100,000 a year. And before I started, I thought I was going to be completely bankrupt because my husband did all the finances, and I discovered he probably didn't file for his accountant, didn't acknowledge that Steve had problems and didn't talk to me, and just filed his taxes, and we never filled out an organizer. So then I had that on top of me. And so I had to learn how to do an organizer, get ready for the tax season, all of that, which was completely new to me.
now at this stage, it sounds like his dementia must be progressing or have progressed, because you've taken over this responsibility that he's had for many years.
Right. And when I realized he couldn't balance the checkbook, he did not understand direct deposits, he did not understand direct payments. I realized, okay, I have to close that bank account. And I went to the Bank of America, which has not been nice to people who have these kind of problems. And I asked if he could be taken off the account, and they said no. So I said, goodbye. And I took the bank account elsewhere.
That's great. And then I imagine that you had the Lifecare Affordability team and Tom and those to bounce ideas and thoughts on these money transactions as you're doing them, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Because just having somebody to give you the confidence to make hard decisions like that is often helpful. So, okay, now you were in the condo, the dementia's progressing, and then you had mentioned talking to Tom about leaving the condo and going into a rental apartment.
Right.
Did that move occur while Steve had the dementia as you describe it?
Yes, he did. He was very docile. I was very lucky. Number one, he loved me dearly. And he would do anything I'd say. And he had change with the dementia. This was a man who didn't like change. And he was fine with moving to one apartment. And then when we had to move to the other apartment, he was fine with that. So, that was the dementia working on depleting his brain cells, because it's the plaques that destroy all the brain cells.
That's okay. So now at this point in time, is he going to Insight Memory Care during the day, or what is the sort of the weekly schedule look like for you caring for your husband at home in the apartment?
He started out with 2 days a week and then 3 days a week. Luckily, I had a wonderful neighbor who loved to play Scrabble with him. And they fought tooth and nail over words, and she loved it and he loved it. And then I had another friend who said she'd play Scrabble with him. So that gave me the opportunity to have some free time and run errands and do that stuff. Otherwise, he was with me in the apartment. And what I learned is that is not the way to take care of somebody with dementia. They need the stimulation of other people, activities, games. One person cannot provide that. And one single aide working with him, that aide is going to watch TV, is going to be on the phone. I had tried 1 or 2 aides and decided, no, this was not what was best for him. He really needed to be in an environment where he was stimulated. So I signed him up for 5 days a week eventually.
That's great. Now, and that's great for people to hear, because I know there's a lot of people out there that, it's just, it can be very challenging, and you feel like it's got to be you. I've got to be this 36-hour-a-day caregiver. And it's great to hear that. It's also great, folks with dementia, they can still enjoy playing Scrabble or the guitar or things like that.
Or playing poker. He still played poker with his friends for 30 years, for a long time.
And these are resources that we can bring together to make this very challenging experience more manageable. Now, were you did you stay in doing this, the in-home care, or did you ever think about, do we need a dementia care community, or were you able to manage this caring for him at home the whole time?
No, that's why I went to a senior center right on Route 236. And I had no idea about Insight Memory Care, and they suggested it. And they provided all the support. I had 2 support groups. I went on to be a co-facilitator of one of the support groups. I have very dear friends as a result, and we have even traveled together. While our husbands had dementia, Insight offered a cruise, which was just incredible.
That was really pioneering. I didn't realize that you went on that cruise. I remember reading about that in the news, that Insight Memory Care put together a caregivers cruise, and
Right.
So you participated in that. You went on a cruise.
Steve and I did that. And at times the staff took over all of our loved ones, and we had free time to relax. They were just incredible. And people wanted to join our group because they saw we had this terrific leader, and we were laughing and enjoying life and doing things. And it just was, it was an incredible vacation.
Wow. And what a great memory in going through this challenging time. Okay. So I want to remind folks in the audience, you can ask questions or anything like that. We've got some really great comments One of my friends said, Louis Tenenbaum says, it's so great to have this true, common, and honest story. My hat goes off to both of you. Also, in terms of dementia progression, the move is often a trigger that makes the change more obvious. So, so how long would you say that the period was from like you're living in the apartment and I'm assuming that the disease progressed and
Right.
how long was that time period, would you say?
Oh, well, it's hard for me to remember. I guess we were there 4 years. And as I look back, his journey was like 7 years.
Mm.
And one of the things that they hammer into the heads of the loved ones is that you cannot do it yourself. You have to take care of you. Otherwise, you're going to get so run down, you're not going to be able to take care of your loved one. And that's why with the support groups, we talked about what can we do to take care of ourselves. And we shared all kinds of ideas. And it's free. I mean, it was fabulous, just fabulous. And I'm now a friend of Insight. So I am a huge, as you can tell, I'm a huge promoter. I support them. I've even taken information about Insight to doctors' offices because they have patients who have dementia and they have patients who have loved ones who have dementia. And Insight is really a secret. It's just not promoted enough.
Now, I want to kind of make the shift here, but also the all of this was costing money. Okay, so tell us how the team at Lifecare Affordability Plan made that more manageable, and help, and having that plan there in place helped.
Well, we looked at the finances. We looked at what I was going to be living on. We looked at how much it was going to cost. And luckily, my husband invested wisely and we moved all the funds over to SEIA. And my funds increased in value. And here I was coming from thinking, I don't know anything and I'm going to be bankrupt. I don't know how much money there is. I don't know how I'm going to handle this. And this was a huge burden that was completely lifted.
Wow, it's great to have a team that is there with you. So, okay, let's kind of move forward because I know a lot of folks on the discussion are interested in where you live and sort of the story after Steve and how you dealt with the grief of losing your loved one. Tell me a little bit about that transition and kind of how.
Well, first of all, the affordability plan has a lot of forms to look at in terms of your health and in terms of your finances and your feelings about things. And they ran numbers for me for 4 different continuing care communities.
Okay, so you had decided Steve has passed.
No, this was before.
Oh, before. Okay, boy, you're really a planner. This is great. So
right, and and I had come to Green Spring and to other places and thought, this is not for me. It's not at all. And then COVID hit, and I realized, I better look at this more seriously. And I looked at the figures for the different places. I saw where if I went into one place, my money wouldn't last as long. If I moved to another place, it would last a lot longer. And so I went and I visited continuing care facilities. I went to Goodwin House, I went to the Mather, I went to Green Spring. And at that time, I really wasn't ready to move. However, Green Spring had an open house, and it was very fortuitous that I came to that open house. They had you going around looking at apartments, and I didn't see anything I liked. And I had been to other apartments, and I had called our vet crying because I said, they showed me this dark apartment. I have been living for 5 years in an apartment with no outside light. I have to have light. That's my top 3 things that I need in my living space. And she told me, don't worry. When you see it, you'll know it. And it'll be exactly what you want. And I said, are you sure? And that's what happened. I was on this tour in Green Spring. I grabbed a salesman and I said to him, the top 3 things on my list to have an apartment is light in the apartment. And he said, come with me. And Green Spring is a large space and they have a lot of walking, and it probably took 10 minutes to get over to where the apartment was. We opened the door, and I don't know if you can see, but in back of me, it's windows. So I came into this apartment, there were no lights on, and the sun was shining into the apartment. And I said, oh my God, this is it. This is what I want. I looked at the kitchen. It has 2-way exposure. It has 2 bedrooms because my kids come to visit. And I said, this is fabulous. And I called our vet and I said, can you come and see this apartment? I think this is it. And she came and she said, this is perfect. Look, you've got parking right there. I know these people. I think this is really it. And the next day I signed up.
Okay, so and Steve is still alive at this point.
No.
Oh, okay. You started looking while he was alive.
Right.
Okay.
And then when I went to this, COVID did it. I couldn't get together with friends or anybody. And
it was more isolating.
Very isolating.
Okay.
And so the most exciting thing about being here at Green Spring is that it's very, very friendly. I have hooked up with people that I know from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. I've made new friends. I can call my neighbor across the hall and say, hey, can we go to dinner? Can we join you? Can I join you? Yes. So, and meals are a big thing here, and people make reservations. And so there's always people to go to dinner with. And if you don't want to be with someone or you want to go by yourself, they'll put you at a table with someone. And so you make new friends. And this is typical. Have dinner with 3 or 4 friends, walk out of the dining room. There's like 5 dining places to eat here. And there in the hall, there are your friends, 2 or 3 couples, and you're not alone. And you just start talking and you're making plans and you go to the theater together. But I couldn't do that in my home or in my apartment where I live by myself. The camaraderie here is wonderful.
That's great. Now, what would you, and one of the things that I like that you said is that when you first started looking at life plan communities like Green Spring, where you live, your initial thought was, this is not for me.
Right.
And I'm sure that you've got friends that say the same thing. It's like, oh, that's great that you're there, Tonya, but I'm never leaving my house and going to a place.
Right.
What are some of the things that you say to folks? Because we all hear that a lot. And
I say that you have to come over and see the facility. They have a swimming pool. They have a gym. I'm just learning to play pickleball the last few weeks. There are book clubs, there's mahjong games, there's canasta. You can learn how to play pool. I mean, there are over 100 clubs here, in addition to pottery classes, watercolor classes, drawing classes. I mean, you can be busy 24 hours a day if you want it to be. But I have to tell you, 2 weeks before I signed the papers, my grandson said to me, Nana, 2 weeks ago, you were not going to move anywhere. And I said, Max, but I found this fabulous apartment and women can change their mind. And so, and he loves the apartment. And the other thing is, I'm very transparent with my kids. When we have our quarterly financial meetings, the kids are there on Zoom. Since COVID, we've been doing Zoom.
Wow.
And so I know that I'm very lucky. Not everybody has that relationship, but that's the way my family is. And I have no secrets in terms of where the money is going and how the money is going. And they're just concerned that there's plenty of money there for me and that I'm healthy.
Yeah. This is, wow. This is great. I've got, well, number one, hats off to you and your family for having those transparent discussions about money, because as you probably heard in talking to your friends there at Green Spring, most families don't operate that way. Is that, and many times most husbands and a lot of husbands and wives don't even know what the family finances are like, and the kids have to pick up the pieces
Right.
when we pass away. So you're really giving a great gift to your family to give them that peace of mind. And on the peace of mind, like going through everything that you've gone through, you keep on referring to, I called our vet at Lifecare Affordability Plan. Did it help to have somebody like them there with every step of the way?
Absolutely. And are still there. If I have a question, I call Glenn right away. If I need to sell some stock, I call him, and in 3 days, I've got the money in the account.
Okay, that's great.
It's instantaneous. It's a smooth working machine. And we're going to be talking about this coming year, and I have plans to travel. So I want to make sure that there's going to be money there for the traveling, and how does that fit in the overall picture?
That's great. Let's see. Martha says, the life plan communities are amazing, and I have a deposit for one, and I plan to be in one in the future. Hats off to you, Martha.
Right. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think emotionally, can be a challenging decision. But one of the things I think that probably the fact that you went from your large home to a condo to an apartment and then to the life plan community, your downsizing was sort of spread out, as opposed to, can you imagine going from the large home to your apartment there at Green Spring, which is what most people do, right?
Right. Some of my friends that moved in this summer had been in a house for 49 years. One was an accountant, one was an attorney. The accountant had all her files, and they have all the stuff from their kids. And trying to decide what to jettison is very difficult. And Green Spring and all the continuing care places have people that will help you decide what you can take, tell you where your furniture could be placed in your condo. And they have wonderful movers that they recommend. My movers not only took what I had contracted for, but I had 20 boxes sitting in the kitchen, and my family was there. We were going to take them over, but the movers took all my plants, unpacked everything all in one day. And it was like a miracle.
That's great. Now, a lot, because you've gone through this downsizing process, a lot of times folks are it's heart-wrenching. They've got that big armoire that they've
right
had family for years. Did you go through any of that turmoil with some of your possessions over these downsizing process?
Not really.
That's
No.
good. That's good. I want people to hear that.
I guess because I had moved so much, And when I moved from the condo, right, we were in the throes of welcoming refugees. And so I put on one of the websites that I was giving away furniture. Somebody came with a truck and I said, do you need this, 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 and this? And he said, yes, the new people coming into the country that we're supporting need that. And so I'm just happy it went to a new home. I didn't care about getting any money for it. It just let it go and make somebody happy.
Okay, you hear that, the pack rats that are listening in the audience? It's sort of what a healthy viewpoint, Tonya. And okay, I'm looking at the clock. I know you gotta be out of here in about 7 minutes. Where are you going in 7 minutes? I think you've got a busy schedule.
Because I love being at Green Spring, I have signed up to be an ambassador for Green Spring. And I go to luncheons and I sit with people who are thinking of coming, who may be on the priority list or may not be on the priority list. And today is a holiday party for people who are on the priority list, and they're just trying to make up their mind. Do I want to move? When do I want to move? What is life really like at Green Spring? And because I love it here, I'm so happy to do that.
That's great, and it's great to see how involved you are. Let's see. Eileen asks, Tonya, what was the organization that picked up your furniture? Do you remember the name of the organization, or was it coordinated through Green Spring?
Are you talking about the things that went away to the refugees? I don't remember.
Oh no, when you moved to Green
Oh,
Spring,
Town and Country.
Town and Country.
Town and Country.
All right.
And they come into your house. Green Spring comes into your house with somebody with the, the life-size models of where you can place things. And then they give you a whole list of movers. They also give you lists of people that you can contact to haul stuff away, that kind of things. I mean, they're there to really ease the way for you to make this transition.
Okay, Eileen clarified. You were right, not me. I thought she wanted to know about the move to Green Spring. She wanted to know about the donation organization that, do you remember?
I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't. It was a man. It was just a man on his own who came with his truck.
Okay, all right.
And I didn't keep any records.
But it was going to refugees, and that's
right.
It's a good thing to think about when we're giving away items, is think about things that you're passionate about. I mean, I just bring this up because Ukraine's in the news. This is like, perhaps there's a Ukraine refugee organization and these people are coming to this country and, need things, and you can donate to something where your heart is at.
Right. And there are a lot of church groups and synagogues that are supporting refugees, and they're just doing incredible good work.
So Louis Tenenbaum brings up a really good point, and you kind of brought it up too, is that you're going to be meeting with people on the priority list there that are on the waiting list, either waiting for a specific apartment or maybe waiting for them to be like, okay, now I'm ready to move. And he brings up that if you're staying at home and waiting to go to a life plan community, it's really important to make sure that your home environment is safe and accessible, because if you have a fall, living this great lifestyle at Green Spring might not be a reality.
Right. Well, one thing here at Green Spring, there are emergency cords in every room, in the bathroom, right next to the tub, right above your bed. I mean, and one thing they do at night is they come around, and around midnight, and there's a little metal thing, and they lift it up to know that you're there and you're in your apartment. And then in the morning, if you haven't been out of your apartment and haven't opened your door before noon, they come by to make sure you're safe.
Great. Man, I tell you, I could talk to you for another hour, Tonya, and I actually would love to have you come back on because there's some elements here that we could devote a whole hour to, but this was a
I'll
wonderful.
be glad to do that, Steve.
Okay, I'm going to take advantage of it. And tell your friends too. We want to meet some of your friends there at Green Spring or some of the groups that you're volunteering with Insight. I think this is just such an authentic discussion that we've had today. And so we're going to bid you adieu. Okay. And I want to welcome one of your friends, Arvette Reed, to the stage from Lifecare Affordability Plan, who will help us close out this discussion and maybe give us a little more of a deeper dive into some of the things that you were talking about, Tonya, and how the Lifecare Affordability Plan supported you.
Well, she's wonderful.
Okay. Well, thanks, Tonya, and have a great luncheon. And here
We'll talk.
Yep.
We'll talk.
Yep. I'll help you head out the door there. Okay.
All right. Bye, Tonya.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. Well, Arvette, that was an
Hello.
amazing discussion. And do you feel like Tonya gave a nice overview of some of the ways that she worked with your organization and Lifecare Affordability Plan?
Yeah, I'll clarify a couple things because I know some of it might seem a little muddy. But first of all, Tonya is just an amazing woman with an amazing story, and I'm so happy that she and Steve connected, because I think it's really important for people to hear real stories from real people, the bumps in the road, the things they celebrate. So just to clarify, the Lifecare Affordability Plan. So I started with Tom 5 years ago. So Tom West, yeah. So Tom West, who is a partner at SEIA, which she mentioned, has been doing this for decades, right? Helping people manage their assets. And that's what typical wealth managers will do. They will say, if you give me your assets, I'll help you manage them and I charge you a percentage of fee. So we do that as a business. When I joined 5 years ago, we created the one-time Lifecare Affordability Plan, which a lot of you have heard about, and you heard Steve and her reference. That plan is for people who are not our clients, that you can do a one-off, and you don't have to consolidate assets with us. If you have assets elsewhere, some people want to do it themselves, but it's the tool that we will walk you through the same decision process that we use with our clients. So Tonya got to go through the whole process with me because she's a client, but we actually pulled it out as well, so people who aren't clients can do the same thing. So one of the things she didn't really get into too much about Steve, her husband. The first discussion we actually had with Tonya was about Steve moving into a memory care. So she talked a lot about Insight, but just so you know, like the last year of his life, he was actually in memory care. And then we were supporting her with how does, where should he go? What can I afford? What are the different scenarios? So we got through that. And then once she, was getting to the point where she really thought she was ready to move, like kind of coming out of COVID, we redid it all over again just with her. So we looked at multiple communities. All of them had different contract types. We looked at different apartment sizes. This concept of, can I really afford a 2-bedroom? I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford a 2-bedroom. So we were able to walk through that and take away the anxiety about the cost so that she could really focus on the communities and the vibe and what she wanted and not be worried about what she could afford. So that is the number one takeaway when we deal with people who are trying to look at any kind of contract comparisons, is giving them a realistic view of what their money really can do for them at different contract types and different apartment sizes.
Okay, so this is, I'm really glad you clarified this, and I see how, because she used the wealth management firm SEIA, who created the Lifecare Affordability Plan, there was a little bit of crossover there. But let's say she could have stayed with the wealth management company that her husband was working with, and then had a Lifecare Affordability Plan, talk about the goals and things that you want, and then you all lay out those choices. And it sounds like you laid out the choices first in looking from the apartment to the condo to the apartment, and then
Yep.
while she was in the apartment, memory care and the daycare programming at Insight.
Yep.
And those are difficult decisions to make, especially since when you go around and tour different communities, you're getting their financial packages are being presented to you in all different kinds of ways. So,
Right.
so the affordability plan maps it out so that you can make more of an apples to apples comparison, which I don't know if you all heard. It was very easy for her to compare the costs of all the different communities she was looking at.
Yeah, and I'm also want to make it clear, like, I am not a placement agency. I that's not my role. My role is they usually have places that they want to see mapped out, like they've already narrowed down their lists. And then if we get people who are like, I'm not sure where I want to go, I'm more concerned about the money, then we actually do the exact same process with just blind budgets. So we don't assign a name, but we can say, okay, here's budget A, budget C, budget A, budget B, budget C. So you can see how the numbers work. And then you can go find a community that fits into the budget range that we've mapped out. So it does not have to be tied to a community, but some people really know the places they want to look at.
Great. And Aaron asks a question, does the Lifecare Affordability Plan help in Maryland too? We were spotlighting somebody that lives in Virginia. What is the geographic reach of your?
I actually work with people all over the country. So the answer to Maryland is yes. I had a client who lives in the Bay Area in San Francisco. And we worked and looked at communities. We looked at home care for her husband, as well as potential moves for her and her husband in the Bay Area. So it was all about Northern California. So I can work with anybody anywhere. The other point I think is very important that Tonya brought up is family involvement. So people in senior housing and healthcare, we're used to doing family meetings and care plans and bringing everybody in. But most financial professionals usually deal with one person or two. So you heard her say that she really didn't know the person that her husband worked with. And, so the financial industry has to do a better job of pulling in everybody. So whenever I do a Lifecare Affordability Plan, I am involving anybody that needs to be part of the conversation. Obviously with Tonya and her husband, it was like, who should be involved? It's their permission. But I encourage them to include their children because I'm an adult daughter. I tell everybody, I want to know what's going on with my parents. I don't want some third party giving them advice and I don't really understand what's happening. So I really encourage those family conversations.
One thing that I loved about this story was the evolution of her husband, Steve, did a great job of accumulating wealth that enables her to live this lifestyle. However, the fact that he did not communicate, it's not disparaging him one bit, but to see where Tonya has taken it with the support of your organization. And I love this idea of these quarterly family talks and understanding the money and the finances. And I can see where they're encouraged. I bet you on some of those talks, they're encouraging mom to take that vacation and everything.
Well, and as I've said before, when you guys have heard me talk, it's not just about the money. It's about the hopes, the fears, what's really bothering, what do you really want to do? You have to get into some of those conversations first. So then you can figure out what the money's supposed to do. And the other thing I've learned over the years, it doesn't matter how much money someone has. They could have $500,000 or they can have $5 million. They still have anxiety about these decisions and what they can afford. So don't assume just because Tonya's in Green Spring that she's some billionaire, or don't assume just because someone's in a smaller assisted living that they only have 500. Like, it's all over the board. Yep. And when people are looking for options at staying home and bringing home care in, it's just as important to understand what those options look like, right? So not everything we do is about people moving. We have a lot of clients who want to stay home regardless, and we're figuring out the best way and the best options for them to plan out those scenarios as well.
Yeah, and I think that I think if anybody has done research in this area, when you look at the cost of healthcare, senior care, elder care, it all looks expensive,
Yes.
no matter what your wealth is. And I think Tonya talked about how it's understanding whether you can, it's looking at the future cost of that and whether you can afford that. And
Right.
you begin to understand how these costs work.
Yeah, and let me make one more comment, then we'll go to questions. So think about it. People have investments, whatever they are, 401ks, pensions, whatever investments they have. And you have a strategy for those investments as you age. When you hit the post-retirement years, when the healthcare stuff happens, the strategy for your investments needs to be revisited. And one of the biggest issues is that adult children try to give advice to their parents about what their money should do, but the adult children are looking at it through a different lens. And what your money needs to do in your 40s and 50s and 60s is completely different of how your money needs to be organized and what it needs to do in your 70s and 80s. So that is something that one of the reasons why we like to have the family meetings, so that we can educate the adult children as to why we are having these other types of conversations and investment strategies with their parents.
Great. Okay, I guess you use the term one-off because we've got two questions from Joanne and from Deb Marimer. And I'll read Deb's. It says, this sounds like a fantastic resource for folks looking to retire or downsize. For the one-off assessment plan, what is involved in starting one? What is the cost? I can see where many of our clients, Deb is in the concierge care management business. I can see where many of our clients would be interested in one or the other option.
Yeah. So great question. We do get a lot of calls from people who are in the aging life care management space, helping people kind of navigate some of these decisions. So the one-off fee is a $4,000 flat rate fee. I don't charge by the hour, and I do that on purpose so that we can have the deep dive conversations and people aren't watching their clock or watching their watch. And with that, you will get a full comprehensive plan that lays out different scenarios. So some people want to do home versus move. Some people want to compare different communities. Some people have recently had a healthcare change, and all of a sudden, you know, they've hired home care and they want to make sure that they can afford this for the long term. So we make a lot of assumptions about increasing cost of care, increase in need of care. We look at everybody's incomes, expenses, like full analysis for that. And like I said, I talk to adult children, no matter where they are. We do Zooms. So it usually can take up to 3 months to finish the whole thing, with lots of Zoom calls, lots of in-person calls, if that's in-person meetings, if that's what they want. And we do a lot of work behind the scenes. And the other thing people get with that is a full portfolio analysis. So if your money is somewhere else, we will actually do a full analysis for you and give you our recommendations of how to better serve you based on the scenarios. And you can take that back to your other financial professional and discuss like what you want to implement or not implement.
That's great. And you know, one of the things that I like about the fact that we had this conversation with Tonya is we got to hear how many times she would refer back to you and ask for guidance and advice. And I'm assuming that when folks sign on for this program, that the relationship is something like that, where it's adapted a little bit as they learn more as well.
Yeah. So the Lifecare Affordability Plan, the reason it's only $4,000, if you think about it, $4,000 isn't even 2 weeks of care in an assisted living these days. Like we really try to keep the price point at a place where we can offer help to more individuals. But the only way we can do that is it has to be finite. Like once we do the scenarios and we work through all the details, we're going to give you a big plan. Like this is an example of a binder that's going to have so much information on it, but then we have to part ways. The people who are our clients for asset management are the ones that get the constant scenario analysis. But you can imagine, like, we can't afford to keep tweaking because you come back to me in 2 years, all your numbers have changed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's only $4,000, because we really try to like make sure we get it really concentrated.
Okay, great. This is, I understand this so much better now so that I can explain it to other folks. I love it. And holy cow, I just glanced at the clock and I can't believe we burned through an hour. this is, I want to thank you so much for introducing me to Tonya. And I really, folks, I'm going to email everybody who's attending this. Give me your feedback on what you think of this format, because if it was up to me, I would love to be able to do these at least once a month, where we spotlight somebody, the different decisions that they made, the different types of vendors, how they made their decisions, good, bad, or otherwise. And I think this will help alleviate a lot of the anxiety and fears people have about these difficult decisions.
Yeah.
Let's see, and somebody, of course, whenever I say that we're about to be done, another question comes in, and this is just to clarify again, Lifecare Affordability Plan, are you national or only in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area? And
National.
Yeah, okay, great.
National. And for example, I had a client where the adult daughter lived here, the mom and dad lived in Southern California, and their brother lived in Seattle. And the conversation was, where should mom and dad move? Should they stay in Southern California, move here, move Seattle? So we really can do all types of scenarios. And talking to me is free. So I don't charge by the hour for a consultation. So if you have a question and you just want to see, like, is this something that makes sense? Just reach out and we can have that chat. And if it makes sense to hire us for that, great.
Okay, and then let's see, the website, let's see, Jennifer, can you drop that in? The website is lifecareaffordability.com. So we've got that there for you. And like I said, folks, this is recorded. We'll have it up on our website. I'll email it out to everybody. Arvette, thank you so much. And I wish Tonya was here for me to thank her again. But
Yeah.
this has been a wonderful discussion, and I look forward to trying to do this many more times with this format. I'm glad that
Yeah.
we put this together this way.
Thank you so much, Steve. Have a good day, everybody.
You bet.